All right. No need to say I'm locked in because I'm locked in.
Oh, nice.
I'm going to fade out. Nice slow fade out.
We'll take it.
GloucesterCast 317.
Whoa.
317. First, on the eve of the polar vortex. I heard the polar vortex is coming.
Yeah.
What am I hearing? Some music.
You're hearing Chris's phone.
Why? Why are you doing this to me?
Because I'm working here.
317 out of 17.
On 117, I'm back to work. So we're going to be doing multiple podcasts a week going for the next 2 weeks.
I'll try.
I hope our pay is
try to
going
be
to
here.
increase.
Reflected.
Everybody, that's going to be reflected in your pay.
Oh, Kim.
Clean
Kim
up on aisle 7.
Kim just spit out her
Wow, it came out your
Kim just spit out her vodka.
No, Franks, it's water.
just-
And that
that's
was such a
vodka,
funny
don't lie.
joke that we get paid.
Very
I
funny joke.
guffawed. No, it did not go out my nose. And no, it is
guffawed,
not.
all right.
No, it is not vodka.
I'll expose you. If you make me sniff that, I will expose you.
You don't want to sniff it now because it has my cold
Oh,
germs
no, I
in
don't want to
there.
sniff you. Adam was with us from Adam Curcuru. I got it right this
There you
time.
go.
First time I've got it right
Well
in
done.
all the times he's been here. I always say Adam Orlando because there's a million Adam Orlandos. There's only one Adam
Adam
Curcuru
Curcuru.
of consequence in my life, and he is here because I asked him to come here because we have had probably 7 to 10 people email or contact me through the blog asking how they can help the Coast Guard, the local Coast Guard, due to the federal government shutdown. And I saw Safatio and you had posted photos from a meeting that you had with some of the, great people from our community. And I'm assuming that you were coming to got together to talk about how we can help.
Sure. So on the same lines, Joe, a lot of the community's been asking what can they do to help our Coast Guard during this time, and on Tuesday, January 15th was the first time the Coast Guard did not get paid. They did not get their paycheck. They're actively working, but right now they're not getting paid. So we had to address a couple issues in the mayor's office with Representative Ferranti, Senator Tarr, a member of Congressman Moulton's office, Harbor Master's office, Coast Guard Station Gloucester, and our veterans organizations.
And Julie LaFontaine.
And Julie LaFontaine and David Holden from Housing to discuss, what people can do and what people shouldn't do to help the Coast Guard. A lot of people were thinking, can I bring them some food down? Can we drop off food to the station? And that's not what they need. As far as the active duty men and women on the station, they still have food and they're still operating. Who's really being affected right now is the families of those Coast Guard members. So that's really where they need support. There's been some question on our harbors and our safety for our boats during the shutdown. Is the Coast Guard still working at full capacity, or are they kind of slowing down because they're not getting paid? And these are active duties members of our military. They're dedicated and proud to serve our country, and they haven't slacked. They're working 100%. They're just not getting paid. But on the psychological note, because they're not getting paid, these issues are in the back of their mind and maybe affecting their work at some point where, can I feed my family? Am I going to have gas to get to work? What about these bills that I'm not able to pay?
What about mortgages?
Yeah, what about the gas bill? What about the mortgage?
Right.
What about diapers? So this is really the first step that we've looked at. So Julie LaFontaine has set up a avenue for these families to get food from Open Door. And if anyone wanted to support that effort, food can be brought over to the Open Door, or
that's
cash
a good way to
donations
do it,
can be brought over to Open Door. Please don't bring any food down to the Coast Guard. They're just not equipped to handle that.
I was actually considering making a brisket and bringing it down there.
Oh,
And I know they would have enjoyed it, but I read this. I'm like, that's probably that they can't
They
take
can't
the food.
take it.
Yeah.
Can't take it. You run into individuals' allergies and
Yeah, of
specific
course.
eating habits.
Right. Everything
It's
is
just not the way that we can effectively help them. Cash donations can be made through the Gloucester Fund and brought to one of our veterans organizations, either our office at 12 Emerson Avenue or the AMVETS on Prospect Street, the VFW on Eastern Avenue, or the American Legion on Washington Street. And those checks can be made out to the Gloucester Fund, and in the memo section, United States Coast Guard. Really what they're looking for is gift cards that can again be brought to those same locations. Gift cards to Market Basket, gift cards to Shaw's, Stop and Shop, Walgreens, CVS, Target,
Yeah.
Walmart, gas stations. Again, to kind of supplement what they're doing. As I said before, they're looking at their families and the needs of their families, getting back and forth to work.
So there's a way to earmark these by dropping them off, and you can say, we'd like this to go toward the Coast Guard?
Correct. So if you drop one of these gift cards off or a check off to one of our veterans organizations and let them know it's going to go from us or to the Harbor Master's office, and the Harbor Master's office is going to give it to Coast Guard Station Gloucester, who will divvy it out to their members on a need basis on what they need, because they know their members the best and they can give them what they need to get them through this.
When you said some of the vet organizations, what in particular would you say to people are listening and they're saying, hey, listen, I'm going to go out today. Who can I go to? What are you suggesting?
So they can go out and get those Walgreens gift
Right,
cards
right.
and everything, and then drop them off at our office on Emerson Avenue,
Okay.
or at the VFW post on Eastern Avenue,
Right.
heading towards Rockport, the American Legion on Washington Street,
Beautiful.
or the AMVETS post on Prospect Street.
Okay.
Any of those posts are accepting those donations.
Is the Harbor Master's office accepting them?
I believe they are, because they're in and out and they're still working.
Okay, yeah.
It'd be better off dropping
other
it
one.
off at
At
one of
the
these
other
posts.
That are
And we
definitely
will-
manned, yeah.
And we will contact the Harbor Master's office with these cards and checks as they come in
Right.
to meet, and then they can distribute them.
That's fantastic. You know, it was very. I was kind of taken aback with how many people on their own, when they heard about the shutdown, were contacting us and like, what can we do? What can we do? I haven't had that kind of outpouring response in a long time.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times the Coast Guard people, a lot of the Coast Guard people aren't like local guys. And they come here and they think that there's this big animosity with the fishermen, like the fishermen
do
don't
think
like them.
that.
But the fishermen really, they
Not
actually,
at all.
they don't, they don't dislike the
Coast
the
Guard.
Coast Guard. They don't dislike the environmental police either.
No.
But I think that these guys come here with a thing in their head like, oh, you know, these guys are, they have a picture in their head of these rough and tumble, like, guys that are in a bar room that are just talking about, oh, the damn Coast Guard. But really, they have nothing but respect
No.
for them.
Yeah, and
which
I
is
think
and it's shown because in the office and everybody's like, these poor guys, what can we do? So
think
We have an
about
amazing community
yeah,
that's always willing to support in all these different efforts.
Yeah.
And we had so many people in this room talking about different levels of crisis.
they, and not just crisis too, like everyday things, like when we have clean Gloucester days, the Coast Guard is out there helping as well. I mean, the incredible emergency rescue efforts that they do, but also these just day-to-day Gloucester things.
Yeah.
And also supporting like I know the Fishermen's Wives has like safety days, and they do them at the Coast Guard station. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's awesome.
They do Boater Safety Day in
Yeah.
June.
Yeah.
They're involved with the Fisherman's Memorial, ensure that they're there providing color guard and support. They're very active in our community. They're cleaning the harbors. They're just really deserving of our support. And it's great to see a community and live in a community that is so anxious to give back when someone else needs it.
Great.
And when
Yeah,
they don't need it,
I
just
think
take
I
it
think it's
forward.
absolutely great that we can. We've always wanted to say thank you, but here's an opportunity to say thank you by
Yes.
helping their families, which is what they're asking for,
Great.
and how you opened up. It was great.
Good point. Good point.
Great.
Well, thank you for coming, Adam.
Thank you.
Anything you want to follow up with?
I don't want to end on a negative note. So I'll tell you a little small good story that we had yesterday. So we had a family, the Rotuscus family. Their father, Jason Rotuscus, is in the Navy. He was in Africa for a whole year, deployed and away from his family. He came home yesterday, and he surprised his kids at Veterans Memorial School.
wow.
So
Is there a video of that coming
there is a
out?
video on Facebook.
Oh, we got to
It's
find that.
wonderful.
That is going to
Without
be.
fail,
They make
me
me cry.
every
Yeah.
single time.
Just to see, his wife Kristen and their two sons, Caden and Jackson, just a surprise, and to have their dad back home. It was great. It was
Nice.
great for our community.
What was the name? The soldier's name?
Jason
Jason what?
Ratuskus.
Ratuskus. Okay.
Somebody better spell
I
that.
can do it. Yeah.
No, I want to make sure. I'm gonna grab that Facebook video and put it on the blog because those are the
Trying
type
to
of.
make us all cry? Is that
Those
it?
are fantastic. No,
RUTKAU
RUTKAUSKAS. All right, awesome.
So they had, his son was, his oldest son was in a second grade class. So they both came in. Their youngest son, I think, is in preschool. Caden and
No idea.
their dad walked in. And,
Wow,
they just,
that's
it's nice for the
beautiful.
family, to be back with a wonderful family.
Welcome
And just
home, Jason.
Yeah, really. So that's a good note that I can leave off on that. This wonderful Gloucester family is back together and reunited after a long deployment.
Great.
We're very happy for them. So.
Adam, thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for coming in. Appreciate it.
That's noisy.
Dave McKechnie just
This
walked
is my
in.
diet.
Welcome.
What is that?
This is on the diet.
I thought you can't eat nuts.
And they're not nuts. It's cereal. It's some kind of fake cereal.
That's not going to be good for
Filled
you. I
with
thought
a
it was
lot of
keto.
protein. Hey, I'm down 11 pounds in just about 11 days. So,
Wow.
yeah.
You know what the impetus
Eat
for
like
him
a bird.
Do you know what the impetus was for him going on this diet? We went to the Bruins game, and before the Bruins game, we went to Massimino's.
Oh,
And he shows up in his suit, his overcoat, and he had a dress shirt on. He took his overcoat off, and the shirt looked like a sausage casing. That if it got near any sharp objects, like shit was gonna go flying everywhere. The guys across the table for him were shielding their eyes because they thought that the button was gonna fly off and take his eyes out. And ever since then, he's been on this
That really
psychotic
Yeah.
diet. He's not drinking.
Yep.
He's like no bread, like one of those type of deals.
No sex.
what a shame.
Oh, that's
Yeah, that's the tough part.
that's the.
Why is that type of diet?
Sex?
I would
It
think
does
that.
something to your metabolism, and I don't know. They
Increases
say,
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Makes him hungry afterwards.
It would burn calories.
Well, it makes him hungry
It makes me
afterwards.
smoke a cigarette after, and smoking's bad for you.
Dave,
I can't tell what you're saying. What you're saying is true or not. I have no idea.
we have Dave McKechnie with us. Dave
Dave.
McKechnie of Beauport Financial fame.
Nice.
Dave is going to talk. He's going to embarrass me and tell me. He's going to shame me that I've never gone to the Beauport Financial Christmas party.
That's right. Been invited every year.
Every year.
10 straight years. Doesn't show up. Doesn't bring any family or anything.
Do you know he's so busy at that time of year.
I told him that.
It's
Because
like the worst time.
like
possible.
literally the worst
Stop,
time.
stop standing up for him, Kim.
Thank you, Kim. She's got my back.
5 to 7, free food for
Yeah.
you.
No, they put on a big
I'll
spread.
take his place. No, just
Yeah. Yeah, Kim and I will go.
We'll go. I'll take his.
Well, the reason I have Dave in here is because I love to do testimony. You notice the only things that we pimp on the blog continuously are things that we really stand behind, right?
Right.
And that's how we have our credibility. So, throughout when I was younger, we had financial advisors that after a while you figure out that they really didn't have your best interests in mind. Chris is fucking around with his phone again. He can't help himself.
my
He's got the
computer.
notifications.
I just
He
got an email.
can't shut the goddamn thing off.
I just got an email.
Turn the volume off.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to.
I got distracted. Anyway,
First time
so
I'm
for
using a
years
computer.
we had these we had signed up for these things, and then enough is enough. We had enough, and through our accountant, our longtime accountant, he had recommended go see Dave McKechnie at Beauport Financial, and from Jim Perry, and everything that he has suggested to us has been a winner. And so we went and talked to Dave, and so every year Dave contacts Dave or Kevin, his partner, contacts contact us, have us in, go over everything, and they really analyze your portfolio. I feel like a lot of places, that's all they do. That's all they're interested in is collecting your assets and getting them under their umbrella.
Right.
And then after that, they really
You don't hear
like
from them,
you don't.
right.
I like those years that went by. I didn't hear from them. Performance all over the place,
Right.
ups and downs, and to Dave's credit and his team that he has assembled, I feel like I'm in. We have never felt like we're in better hands. So, if anyone is in a situation where they don't feel comfortable at all, 100% comfortable, because I feel 100% comfortable with who is managing their money, I would highly suggest talking to Dave. Dave, how long have you been in the business?
33 years. I can't believe it. It's very simple why I take care of you. Because I always felt when I walked down to the wharf that, if I didn't do a good job for you and act as a fiduciary, which means, acting in your best interest, I'd be on the back of a lobster boat, strapped with a couple of cinder blocks right out by, dock bar breakwater, and be thrown off the edge. So it's pretty simple.
Get whacked.
Get whacked. So,
This is a podcast with value added. That's really
right.
good.
So I manage your money out of fear.
Yeah.
Something bad could go wrong, and
Jeez, that's
as you keep adding family members to me, the fear for me, the pressure grows. So,
Yeah,
Do we need the
yeah.
Godfather music?
but-
in the-
Yeah.
No.
it's been a great run, in Cape Ann and Gloucester. And one of the things, if you ever do come to our Christmas party, one of the things that we do is we donate 10% of our profit back to the community every year, and it's a big, an outpouring of a lot of nonprofits, and our clients actually write grants each year to benefit the nonprofit that they're involved in, and the client
Oh,
and or
nice.
the nonprofit head shows up at the event, and we literally pass them out checks, and the checks are secret. We don't make a big deal out of the dollar amounts, but we listening to Adam here earlier. It's Gloucester is a unique place with some incredible nonprofits. Pathways, the YMCA, Open Door, Action, go on and on and on, and it really makes us unique. And we're I'm born and raised here in Gloucester, so feel the fabric of Cape Ann.
But when you go in and you have these meetings, and initially, and you tell they really take you under their wing, and they're not trying to invest in these high. How the VIG? What do we
Like
call
hedge
it?
funds.
The VIX, the
The-
high, the
No,
high momentum type of
no,
stocks.
no. I'm talking about VIG, like the cost. The you use a lot of index funds,
Right.
which are low cost to
Right.
get in and out of, and when he's managing, there have been money managers in the past that would do a lot of trading and would incur a lot of costs. Like Dave's, the way they work there is they put together a balanced portfolio that should over time will serve you extremely well with minimal exposure to risk.
Because you're in it for the long run, right?
But they're also
So-
locals, and they're in the community, and they have to run into these people in the grocery store and everything else,
We do.
right?
Demoulas is a tough place sometimes.
Yeah.
Not so much to meet and greet clients. It's wonderful, but it takes maybe 2 hours to sometimes do the grocery shopping.
I'm sure. I'm
To
sure.
stop and see everybody and so forth. But that's also part of what's great about being here and being connected to the community. And these indexes are part of something that's very unique for us. We've been doing it for 16 years. We're one of the early adopters of these things called exchange-traded funds. And their claim to fame is that you're always going to get the market returns. You're never going to get performance below the market. If you asset allocate the portfolio properly, you can do better than the market. And if you can keep your costs very, very low and your tax efficiency very, very high, that's a return to the client. It's hard sometimes to track it, like the before and after. Like, hey, your taxes were this before, now your taxes 3-4 years later are this or Y, and But we've demonstrated that over the years, and in fact, if you pay less in taxes, you have more return in your pocket, and we keep our fees, reasonable here on Cape Ann. So
Yeah. Well, Jim Perry is as our accountant down the wharf, is a very. I find like the older, established guys, like you can go to them, and they really like. They don't give the reason that they've been around so long is because they're giving good advice.
Right.
You know what I mean?
and they're honest. He used to work for the IRS, so you and I have in common. I mean, 33 years with Jim Perry for me, my entire working lifetime. He's starting to wind down, and bringing in a new younger associate. So hopefully that'll go as well as the last 33 years has gone for you and I.
So what would you say to a young family that is kind of, maybe they don't have a ton of assets yet? I mean, do you have a cutoff point where people have to have a certain amount to get it started with you guys at Beauport Financial?
Yes and no. If we're looking with a family member, a young family, and we want to bring them along, I'm a young firm. I'm the oldest of my entire crew at 57. So, we want to get, especially clients of ours, their family members, their kids, and so forth, involved. If a client refers us to a young family, we're certainly going to take care of them. And really, no amount is too small. It's the discipline of putting money away every month and not spending it, somewhere else, and getting set up on some kind of an automatic plan. And employers do great jobs with 401ks and IRAs and retirement plans like that, where you can get automatic payroll deduction in your, for your savings with an employer. All of that's really important. Americans don't really save, and young people, because of these economic crises that have gone on, if you will, in 2001 and 2, when they were born and just getting going, and listening to the parents have angst over their investment portfolios, and then 2008 and 9, and then just this recent little hiccup that we've had at the end of the year, it rattles people, and they have to, they lose confidence that this type of savings, owning corporations, owning businesses, you own a business here. You take risks for owning your business, but you're rewarded, for the risk that you take. It's the same thing whether you're owning Apple or Amazon or Procter & Gamble or Walmart, and you're owning pieces of companies. They ebb and flow over time, and we try to make this intangible investment tangible, so you can touch it and feel it, and understand what you own, and understand the business cycle, that it goes up and down. This type of correction that we just had in the last few months, very normal. What was abnormal was 2016 and 17, where the stock market just kind of edged upward very, very, with very little risk in the portfolios and very little volatility, and it got people a little bit complacent. And so this correction that's happened, I don't know if it's a recession coming or not. This could be another false alarm, and we take another leg up, and this economic expansion continues, or it could be that we do have a recession. Probably not as bad as the last one, but these are quite normal. And for a young person, to be getting started in dollar cost averaging into the market, sending money in every month is an awesome way to get started.
The best thing I ever did at a young age was have money automatically deducted out of my checking account and deposited into certain mutual funds.
Right.
And then, as I got older, I found out that you could take that a step further. If you get the money and deposit it into index funds, there's a lot less friction costs. Mm-hmm. And Dave, so say you had, I don't know, whatever you could afford at a young age, and by dollar cost average, if you try to time, what I have found is if you try to time the market, you're not good enough. You're psychologically not disciplined enough to time the market. Like when the market is just absolutely getting demolished, to catch the very lows. Right. So if you just stay disciplined and have that money automatically deducted, you catch it all. Right. Mm-hmm. And if you do have some excess cash laying around and you see a 20% pullback, and you don't put it to work, I feel like you're insane.
Right.
Right?
Well, yeah, I mean, and that's why the discipline of going, and doing it every month. But, the stock market right after Christmas, has been up 10%. And so the selling part of things when you get nervous or worried is easy. It's, when are you going to get back in? And, and so the market has corrected, up 10% from its lows just a few weeks ago. And we're not good enough to time that situation either. What our goal is to make sure that, all of our clients are prepared going into a correction in the market or an economic downturn so that they can weather the portfolio by owning some safer investments that will not be as volatile on the way down, and let everybody sleep at night, including us, so that the meetings at Demoulas are cordial and and not acrimonious.
Yeah.
But our clients understand that, and there's certainly some hand holding. We're working our tail off here. As clients get their statements at the end of the year, it was kind of a nasty time to open up their Schwab statements. But then if I run them a report of where we are today, so we're off like 5% over a 12 months, 2-week period of time.
After 2 years previous,
not so bad.
2016
and 2017 being great, returns. So,
based on your extensive analysis and research, what is the prediction for lobster commodities?
Lobster commodities. I think that the lack of kind of a claw on one of the lobsters could hurt the commodity pricing if the lobsters are still growing with both claws coming forward and they measure the device properly. I think commodity prices are in really good shape for Captain Joe and Sons. Yeah,
nice.
Should be good.
Good to hear.
Yeah.
Invest heavily.
Make sure you boil them though.
No, you have to. What do you have to do? You have to shock them.
Yeah,
if you live in
Show them the
what is it,
December-
Sweden? Switzerland.
Show them
Or
the
was it
December
Sweden?
statement.
Sweden,
Shop.
sorry.
They made it illegal
Yeah.
to boil lobsters right from the get-go. You have to shock them
Really.
to put them in a
Shock them senseless.
before you could boil them.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just
You probably don't remember this. When I first met you, okay, I collected 2 lobsters. One was Herman 1 and the other one was Herman 2. And Herman 1 was caught on a dragger, and it came in here, it was like 17 pounds. And I decided my best man at my wedding was turning 30, and I was going to goof on him pretty good. So you packed this lobster up. You didn't even know me as Bullport Financial at the time. Put it in a big, styrofoam container. I drove it to Philadelphia, and then found out that I couldn't put Herman in the pot. There wasn't a pot big enough. I brought a big pot, and poor Herman, the Ginzu knife came out, and we had to dismember the 2 claws while the poor thing was alive.
Oh.
And boy, was that! I mean, that fed like 6 people over 2 days,
Yeah.
and then Herman 2 was brought up to Brookline, Massachusetts, for my other buddy who turned 30, like about 3 months later. And I unleashed Herman, took the pegs out and everything, and put them on the floor as my buddy came around the corner. And Herman was up there, grabbing and wanting a piece of somebody, scared the living what out of my friend.
Oh boy.
But if you cook them right, you don't overcook the bigger lobster.
Yeah. So what
They're
is
just-
the
they're
deal
delicious.
with that? With a giant lobster? How do they taste?
Well, the myth is that they don't taste any good, but the reason that has come to be a myth is because people cook the shit out of them,
Cook them
so
too
they
long.
overcook them.
Right. Okay.
I forget what the right time
Timing
is for
Okay.
the big
I
one.
need to do that again.
Do the guys ever bring super giant lobsters in like
There's
that?
only certain guys that have the permits to bring in the big ones now. The
Oh, okay.
inshore guys can the lobsters that they're allowed to bring in are up to like 3.5 pounds.
And why is that they have
It's
restrictions?
it's a measure to it's one of the measures that the lobstermen themselves have self-imposed for sustainability reasons, and that's why our lobster industry is so healthy year in and year out.
That's
Is
right.
because they don't. Every time something comes along, they don't fight.
They don't
like a
fight.
fisherman. Like every time there was some type of measure to cut back, the fishermen all railed against it. until it was too, then it was too late, and then they all.
Aren't the big lobsters the breeders? Too?
That's what I was
You know,
gonna
Well,
ask.
that's
Yeah.
so that's part of the
Yeah.
reason why
Yeah.
they don't take them is the
Sure.
big females, tend to have a lot of eggs and
They
stuff like
do,
that. So they
okay.
throw those ones back, and
Right.
it's
These actually got grabbed by draggers. I mean, they're way too big for any.
Lobster,
just
they wouldn't
yeah,
go
it was
into
just
a
kind of luck
lobster pot. Yeah.
of, and
Yeah.
they would be brought
Wow.
in. But that was years ago, so I don't know if that's
Yeah, they don't-
changed or not.
yeah, it's changed.
Yeah, they throw them
But
back.
there's most of them do, but there's some that still. There's only a handful of guys that have the offshore
permit.
that fish in certain areas that can land those.
Mm.
So that's a whole different animal
Yeah.
from what we catch now.
I
Okay.
think you
is
got to
the,
put one of those big ones on a grill.
Oh,
Growing
yeah.
up.
What's the lifespan of a lobster?
They could live up to 100 years, right?
They say, there's
It's like-
there's questions that they if nothing gets to them that they
Right.
could live in infinity.
Indefinitely.
There's
Right.
questions about that.
So there could be a
200-year-old
3,000
lobster.
pound lobster out there.
I don't know about the size,
The size.
but the
Oh,
but
just in
the
terms
age.
of the age.
Yeah, that's they analyze lobsters, which is a cool thing with the genome Gloucester.
GMGI.
Oh, that's right.
Good Morning
GM.
Gloucester Institute over
Yeah.
there on Rogers
The
Street.
Gloucester Genomics.
Good Morning Gloucester Institute, Kim.
Gloucester
Hello.
Marine Genomics Institute.
We should do a podcast from over there.
They would probably love to have us.
Yeah.
I still have not been in that building, which is
Oh,
a
my
shame.
God.
I wanted to go for the big art. They had
The art.
with
John Sark.
John Sarkin and the
Paul
Jewish guy.
Paul Carey Goldberg.
Paul Garrett Goldberg had a show
A show there.
art show there just like last week, right?
Yeah, it was last week, and they.
Did you go?
No, I didn't go, but so that what's really cool is GMGI
Good Morning
is-
Gloucester Institute.
is they're not purchasing artists' work; they're leasing it. So
Oh.
Tom used to do this at the Cambridge Art Association, where you rent the artist's work, but they maintain ownership of it. So they're getting money for it, plus they own it, and so if somebody wants to buy it from them,
They can still
they
sell
can
it.
still sell it. So, and after the exposure of being at the show, they'll probably sell
Often
it.
sell,
Often
yeah.
sell it. So it's a
That's
real,
a
it's
great
win,
concept.
It's a win-win for the artist in
Yeah.
every way.
I told you the story about John Sarkin when I was in his studio, and there was the huge the mackerel mural that was probably about 20 feet long.
Where was that headed?
At-
Was it-
So no, it was on the wall, and I'm sitting there, and do you know John Sarkin?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so his studio in the West End is covered with pastel crayons, and like you can't take a step without
It's floor to
stepping
ceiling.
on a. It's like
Yeah, floor to ceiling.
Floor to
wall
ceiling,
Wall to
like-
wall. Stacked everywhere.
Bananas.
It's like crazy.
so. I'm sitting there having a conversation with him, and he's a very interesting guy. And this older lady walks in, and she says, "John, I want to buy the mackerel." And he goes, and she says, "I'll give you $15,000 for it." And he says, "No, it's 50,000." And she says, "John, I'll cut you a check right now for $15,000 for that." He goes, "My agent would kill me if I sold that.
Yeah.
It's got to go for $50,000." He let $15,000 walk out the door. And this is, I mean, his work is wonderful work, but have you seen how quickly he does his like he's a frenetic, like,
Right. He could do
it's one of
another one
these
and-
things. Yeah,
Yeah, right.
and he didn't, and he left $15,000
Well,
on the table.
15 from 50 is pretty low ball, maybe.
Right.
You
So
Well,
he's
yeah,
gotta protect
yeah,
he's
yeah.
got to protect the value of his
Yeah.
work.
Yeah, he's got to protect the value of his
so-
work. Yeah, but it was. I
That
mean,
is
there you
pretty
go.
interesting
There you
watching
go.
that happen, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, just
And
sitting there
then-
and watching this transpire, I'm like,
Right.
what's going to happen? What's going to happen? It's very interesting to me. Yeah, very, very cool. But yeah, you have a lot of artwork in your office up in
We
Blackburn
do.
Industrial Park.
Yeah, we have some. Interesting, eclectic artwork. Some from Lauren Doucette, and which is a great local artist here.
You could use a
and,
canvas or two from
some-
that artist Joey Shimatara. He does some
Yeah.
great waterfront pieces.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Just
And
tease
the-
out.
the framing those photographs would be, spectacular. So, then we actually had a gentleman from White Elephant come by and out of the back of his van. We grabbed a bunch of
really?
bunch of old paintings and framed them up really nice. And if you look really closely at them, somebody had punched a hole through the canvas and ruined a beautiful painting. But you have to look at it closely.
Yes.
So we have then some Heathcliff Slocum. I don't know, some guy never heard of. We got a couple of his paintings. My aunt Ellen, who God rest her soul, passed away. A couple of her paintings. Ellen O'Malley.
Wasn't he a pitcher?
Heathcliff Slocum, I think, was a pitcher.
Yeah, no, it wasn't Heathcliff. It's Heathcliff somebody, big writing. So
Maybe he's an artist.
hey, I wanted to put in. Can I put in a couple of plugs?
Sure, of course.
So the snowy owl that I see all the time on Good Morning Gloucester.
Both of them.
Okay,
actually.
it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful owl. And then the birds that we all fret about in the springtime that hatch down in
Piping
Good
plovers.
The piping plovers are wonderful. Okay, but I have
Are you
a
pandering?
family.
Are you pandering right now?
Yes, I have a family of osprey that are on the Annisquam River, and I pray that they come back for the third season in a row. My Aunt Eleanor's friend has got this stand out there right
Nest.
next to Gloucester Marina.
You know what?
They have had children every year.
I photographed that. Yeah, I think
I
I
haven't
know
seen
you.
them. I haven't seen your photographs, but
If you
they
go to
need
the-
to be next spring when they come back. I have a telescope on them. It is the most beautiful thing every morning. This couple that takes care of these little babies that show up in June, and they feed them constantly all the way till the end of August, and then they teach them how to fly off the
What do you mean? Wait. The
Off the-
humans?
off
The
the
humans are
platform?
teaching.
No.
The humans are teaching them how to
No, Mom and Dad.
Mom and
Oh, you said a
Dad.
couple.
Mom and Dad
Wait, who
osprey.
is-
Yeah, Mom and Dad.
Well, they mate
osprey.
for life. You know, these
Yeah.
osprey mate for life, and to see them come back, God knows where they go, and they leave like Labor Day every year, and then I pray that they come back again this year. But if they have kids again, to track them similarly to a couple of times throughout the summer,
Yeah, you know what?
it's beautiful.
So you're who is it your relative that has the house that overlooks the
Yes.
okay, so
Yeah, Eleanor McKechnie. We can probably get you access there. She may have said
Yeah.
no.
no, she said yes.
Oh,
she
good.
and her husband, I guess it was her
Right.
husband,
Significant other.
significant other,
Right.
allow me to come and photograph from up there, and
Yeah.
and then the osprey that year were disappeared or were taken out by an eagle. Or
Isn't there a
something like
guy?
Yeah.
Isn't there a
No,
guy
they
that was
lost.
building? Wasn't there a certain guy that
Yes,
was building?
that's him. He built a second one.
Yeah,
her
the second
sign-
one hasn't. They haven't
Her
hooked on. It might be too close to the other one, but
Yeah.
they've got permission from the Friend family to put it on their marshland. And supposedly the boundary of the creek that's right there is enough of a bound because they're very territorial.
Right.
And but I think it's too close. But we haven't. It's been 2 seasons, and the other osprey nest hasn't been
Hasn't been used.
yet. Although this past fall, before they left, they were landing on it.
Oh, that's
so
awesome.
you
So
never know.
Because it's a bigger platform, and so the osprey
Right.
every year they add more and more
Yeah.
sticks and things
Yeah.
like that. So if you've ever seen an osprey nest, like some of them are like
Yeah, 4 or 5.
30 feet wide.
Oh, really?
And- oh my
Yeah,
God,
wow.
they can be
Yeah.
and like a tower. They can be
Right.
huge. Absolutely
If I was the
huge.
osprey, I would take the new one. The new
The
one's
one,
deeper
it's
and
bigger and better.
and it could be a much bigger house over time.
When I go
I'll take your card.
when I go to Naples, and we go up to Marco, that like every single marker in the middle of the channel pole has an
Has an
osprey
osprey
nest,
nest.
and
Oh,
you see
wow.
them the whole way. It's like one to the
Wow.
next one. You see osprey.
Oh, so
There's a
awesome.
lot of them there.
Wow, so awesome.
So that bird has a pretty wide range, I guess, huh?
Oh, huge territory. Yes,
Yeah.
and because they're not just North American either. The nest that I saw that I was just telling you about is like in Egypt, and it doesn't get.
Are they the
blown away.
fastest? Are they the fastest
Oh,
raptor?
you're thinking about peregrine falcons.
Peregrine falcon,
You're
sorry.
thinking about
Yeah.
peregrine falcon.
They're pretty quick though,
Yeah, they're fast.
and they fish right on the Annisquam River. They
And-
come down and hit a pogie or something.
And you can
And
see
come
like
back,
big
and the
fishes
kids are
coming
all
out of their mouth.
excited.
Yeah,
It's like
Yeah.
feeding time.
Yeah,
And
that's awesome.
Yeah,
Do you
yeah.
have a card?
There's
Not
Beauport
my phone.
Financial. He's not that hard to find.
Right, yeah. Right from Blackburn Park.
Yeah.
So I have one other plug.
Yep.
Right, so the rumor is that there's actually a closing date with this consortium of the YMCA and Windover Corporation, and I'm forgetting the Dolben Company and Sam Park, that they're actually going to close on this project up at the Fuller School site, and that construction will start to happen on a brand new YMCA. My wife and I are chairing that campaign. The public phase of it will start to launch this spring for the community to be involved in. We're $17 million. We've got to get to $22 million. It's actually going to be more like a $30 million Y. The North Shore Y will take on some debt and grab some grant funds where they can. But it's going to be a beautiful facility when it's done. And
Every new YMCA
awesome.
that they've built in the past 15 years has been like state of the art, like ridiculous. And the cost to join YMCA's are not very expensive.
I think I just passed one of those giant new YMCA's the other day.
Beverly has a gorgeous one. Ipswich has a gorgeous one. Marblehead.
And the parking lot was packed. And
Yeah, people are using them.
People are using them.
Yeah, so this will be great. We'll double our youth programs and things like that, just because we'll have moms. I mean, I was at the Y this morning and I watched a young mother, pull over next to the temple, kitty corner parked, looking both ways, coming across the street with her little one. And it's just not a practical place to, there'll be a
The amount of parking spots that it takes up downtown
there'll
is
be a
outrageous.
drop-off place for people to pull in with their kids. It'll be safe. There'll be plenty of parking, and it's going to be cool.
The part that I love
when it's
about
done.
the whole project is the residential part, actually. And the reason I like that is because I feel like there's so many older folks, like my mom, that have houses that they don't necessarily need
And don't want to take care of anymore.
And would love to be able to take the money from their house and to be able to live and downsize.
Walk
and
to the Y,
walk
walk to
to
the
the-
grocery store,
Yeah.
get some other, you got
It's-
home goods going in now, you can, so it's...
You can
it'd be
furnish your
great.
whole new apartment.
There you go.
Home goods.
Oh, I
Right.
mean, it's the perfect type of living space for older folks, in my opinion, anyway.
10 years in the making. Looks like it's going to happen.
Finally.
We have enough revenue, enough assets raised to move ahead with construction on our end, and
That's great news.
it's going to be exciting for the city.
That's awesome. Well, Dave, thank you so much for coming in.
Awesome.
Do you have a website?
We do. It's BeauportFinancialServices.com.
BeauportFinancialServices.com. If you're unhappy, or if you're just getting started, or if you just want someone that you can trust to run things by, my gold seal of approval to Beauport Financial, Dave and his whole team, professional, honest, hardworking, caring.
Good tip.
There's not enough adjectives. I could be here all day long with great adjectives, but I thank you what he's done for our family, and I know that you'd be happy if he did work for you.
Let me tell you how great these people are. Dave's partner saved us this past summer off of the Annisquam River. We beached our boat. I'm a first-time boater, so that will never happen again. And Dave's partner saw us waving him down.
Floundering.
And he rescued, how many of us? 5?
7, 5 to 7.
Of 6. And took us back to mile marker. And we had to go get the boat the next morning. But he was
He didn't
a
have to.
hero
A beacon in a storm,
In my
right?
mind. I had no idea who he was. We got on the boat, we started chatting, and of course I said, well, do you know Joe Shimataro? And he started laughing. He goes, yeah, Joe is a client of mine. I'm like, holy shit. So it's a small world, but not only do they do a good job at managing money, but they also
Save
They're
people.
the
Save
boat
people.
res-
Help
boat rescue
stranded boaters.
department.
Save people from themselves.
That's ultimately what they do.
That's the bottom line of it.
Exactly.
Perfect juxtaposition.
Yeah.
Kevin Blinky from Detroit, Michigan.
Kevin, that's right, Kevin.
Yeah, landlubber saved you.
Landlubber.
Yeah.
Yeah, congratulations. Yeah, thanks for coming in.
Great.
Appreciate it.
So I just wanted to start off with a quick question about the osprey. So what does it take to get one of those nests, like the pole nest or the
What does it take to get built?
The stand that they build their nest on.
So Greenbelt is the one who's been installing the nests around here.
Really?
And so you have to get permission from if it's not on Greenbelt property, you have to get permission from the people.
Yeah.
He lives on the Annisquam, that's why.
Oh,
Yeah, because I would love one
Oh.
outside of my
I
house.
know who you should talk
Really?
to.
On the marsh, yeah.
Yeah, Dave
Really?
Rimmer.
Okay.
He's the guy who helps us with the piping plovers from
Okay.
Greenbelt.
Yeah.
He's the one who installed the ones at Dave's.
Yeah.
And he's also, his main special thing is the ospreys.
Really?
Yes, so you want to talk to Dave Rimmer about getting one.
Okay.
If you next time you talk to him, just mention to him. He lives on what's it called? Something Point?
Little River,
No, but what's the point?
Stanwood Point.
Stanwood Point. Right across from Nichols Candy at the end of Woodward Ave.
Yeah, well, they're a perfect spot for it.
Little River, Stanwood Point,
Yeah.
at the end of Nichols. Oh, I know where that
Not
is.
Nichols, on the
Oh.
opposite side.
Of
You're
the
looking
candy.
at it.
Okay.
Yeah.
You look out at the candies at the
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Because he'd probably come and do a site thing and say, and say if this is a good location
Yeah.
or not. But is there any osprey nests around you?
The one that Dave was referencing is further down
Is
the
much
river.
further down?
No, well, not. I mean, it's not much further, but,
But it's-
it's
It's down
It's a-
and around the corner. It's on the other side of the
Yeah.
railroad bridge.
no.
You're on the same side of the railroad bridge?
Yeah, I'm on the same side of the railroad
Oh,
bridge as
yeah.
Oh,
him.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but they just built one. The second one that he was just describing that his aunt's significant other built is relatively close to
Yeah.
the one that's there now. Have you noticed that there's two there now? One much bigger and one smaller.
I haven't noticed
No,
that.
that,
But,
okay. But anyways, Dave
that'd be
will
great.
come and look at it, and
Yeah.
if it's he
Is
I'm
it near
sure-
the house that has the three painted frog rocks?
If you go
The big yellow house on the corner there when you're going. You know the painted frog rocks I'm talking about?
No, if you know what that variety store is on Washington Street, right? The variety store on Washington Street.
No.
If you drive down there,
No.
is that what you're talking about?
What?
Anyways,
What I'm talking about? There's the famous frog rocks on Annisquam River. Hold on, I'm looking. As I type.
frog.
Hasty's Frogs, it's called. The lady painted them.
Oh, somebody.
Dang it. All right, never mind.
Okay,
We'll
never mind. All right.
move on.
All right. Anyways, it's
Anyway.
very exciting that we met somebody who's involved with the ospreys.
yeah.
But
Pisces. This is big news. Pisces has been a member of our downtown community for many, many years.
Right.
I would say at least 20, but I'm not positive. Okay, they're having a 50% off sale, and
when does that start?
I guess it's already
Till
started.
the end of the month,
To-
I believe.
Oh,
Because you,
It's their closing.
It
sale?
says, we are truly grateful for your business, friendship, and support over the past 17 years. We will miss you. Gift certificates must be redeemed by 1/30/19. All sales are final. 50% off store-wide closing sale.
Oh, they're closing.
I didn't realize that.
Wow.
Yeah,
I've
and
gotten a lot of nice gifts from my mother-in-law there.
that for many, many years was my go-to last-minute gift place. You could always find
You
something
could find
there.
something.
And I think a lot of people felt the same way.
Yeah.
Now, my guess is with Design of Mine,
Right, and then
Brass Monkey,
yeah.
and what's the other one that's next to Design of Mine?
oh, they get Dove and Rose.
Rose
Yeah,
and
Mia,
Dove.
Right.
Mia
Something
worked
like
there.
that.
Fig and Rose,
Yeah, the name is escaping me.
Duck and Rose.
Mia worked there
Rose and
a few
something.
times this past summer.
Anyway, there's 4 stores
Gift
where there
shop.
used to be 4 gift shops
right.
where there used to be kind of one,
Yeah,
all within a block,
right.
and
Well,
and
sometimes
and then you also have Home Goods come in, which
Right.
people can go to Home Goods.
Right.
I
Yeah,
think the
but
writing
when
was
you
on
think
the wall.
about the tourists, I mean, if I'm coming to Gloucester, I'm not going to Home Depot. I mean,
Home Goods.
You're not
Home
going to
Goods.
Home Goods, right?
I want to walk up and down the downtown area.
I agree with you.
Right,
and-
because sometimes multiple gift shops can be a
Yeah,
good thing.
I agree.
Because it just brings a larger group of people that are looking for things.
And I haven't
mean,
found much overlap between them
Yeah.
either.
I think
which
most
is
of the
nice.
times
That's
those
true. There isn't
places,
a lot of overlap.
Yeah.
You're right.
most of the time those places will respect each other, and if they won't carry the same product. I
Similar
remember when
products.
who's that lady that when I started the blog, Janice Lufkin Shea had the Cormorant shop, and I remember her talking about there was like an agreement among the retailers downtown not to
carry the same
carry
things.
the same type of
Yeah.
things. And I don't know.
I think
That's
Bex
nice
wrote,
that they have a.
Bex wrote something on that, and I think Bex wrote that there was a raise, that the owner raised the rent,
Yeah, there was a big raise. on it.
and that was part of it.
Yeah.
Bex wrote something on that, and Bex knows a lot of the worker,
You
she
know.
knows all
Yeah.
the workers.
Well, rent to rent. You can't like I
What are
don't
you
I
gonna
don't I don't begrudge anyone. They own the place. They charge what they want to charge.
I know, but lots of times they raise the rent, and then this sits empty.
well, if it sits empty, then they have to lower the rent. But the market will find its way. And you can't. I think when you try to dictate, then things don't get. Things end up worse. Chris had a topic: alcohol versus marijuana.
Yeah, this one is an interesting one. I got involved in a conversation yesterday with someone who was at a party. There was obviously alcohol at the party, and I guess there was an individual who took out their marijuana pen and started smoking it, and some people were offended by that.
Was that indoors?
That was indoors.
Marijuana pen indoors.
Yeah, but it was a vape pen. So
So I
Does
don't know what
means
that
you
means exactly.
Does that not make a smell in the house?
it really doesn't. I mean, maybe if you're standing right next to the person, but
It doesn't get into the.
Technically
It
speaking,
wouldn't
it's
get
vapor.
into the furniture.
no, wouldn't
Okay.
get it. It's not like a cigar. It's not like a cigarette.
Okay.
It's literally vapor. So it disappears quickly and doesn't leave a stink. But that's not the issue. The issue is that a number of people took offense to that, and with marijuana being legal now, what is the big deal if you're at a party and someone's drinking beer, which is a drug,
Right.
Absolutely.
or they go to their vape pen, and even if they walk away and go in the corner,
Yeah.
why should that person be looked at differently than the person who's on his 6th or 7th vodka drink?
Well, don't you think it's kind of up to the host or hostess?
Yeah, I mean, you have to be respectful of that.
Yeah.
But that
Yeah.
aside,
Yeah.
let's
So
say
was
everyone's...
was the consternation about the fact that it was marijuana?
Yeah,
Instead
the
of
sort of the
That's
stigma.
I think the
So
point.
that's
The
the
point
key.
is.
stigma, and I
Right.
think that people, who grew up like Jim and I did during an era when it was illegal and you didn't bring it out, you didn't talk about it, you didn't,
Right.
For us that adjustment is a little
Jarring.
Yeah, it-
freeing.
Yeah.
But jarring.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you just don't shake those
Yeah,
standards you have in your head
Right.
that you grew up with, even
Right.
though times around you are
no, I
changing.
couldn't agree with you more. It's still, I sit in my house and have a beer with my daughter and kids there.
Yeah, but you
I
probably
couldn't
wouldn't
see taking out a vape pen
Right.
and smoking vape,
Right.
but yet
Right.
they're both drugs.
They're both
they're both
yes. Mm-hmm.
legal. It's an interest. I found the conversation to be interesting.
Right. It's an adjustment that I think a lot of people are going to have to make.
Yeah.
I think. I
Yeah.
mean, that's.
I think it's obviously you're exactly right. It is sort of even to me. It's not jarring now, but the first couple of times I saw someone take out a vape pen,
Yeah.
like sort of in public, like not, you know what I mean? Like
Right.
I'm like my eyes kind of got big, but
Right.
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 Very quickly for me, it's you have to understand like that this is just what's interesting to me is I know some police officers, and speaking to them off the record, they they do not have mechanisms.
Yeah.
Right.
Right, for testing
yeah.
People
people's
like what
consumption,
what I continue to hear from them is, someone can drink a couple of beers and be arrested, and conversely can get completely whacked out of their mind on marijuana, and there's no mechanism
Right.
to
That is a problem.
to stop them or arrest them or anything like
Well,
that
don't you
for
think-
driving impaired, because they are impaired.
Right.
Right,
I
absolutely.
think that is a huge. I think this is where our local legislation really dropped the ball, because they've known for like 3 years that this was and even longer. I mean, 5 years ago, you could say that this was coming down the pike.
You know
and
why?
so-
You know why they've dropped the ball? Take a guess why.
Well, no.
Take a guess why.
I mean, I think things are very difficult to get done.
Do you think it's difficult, or they don't want to touch it because they know it's going to be an unpopular
Popular
thing,
thing,
because
right.
the stoners
Right.
and the people that do want to get. And you know, I shouldn't even say stoners, because that's a negative connotation.
Right.
But the people that really are embracing marijuana, or that use of
And the
marijuana,
business
for good or
aspect
bad,
of it.
are they know, the politicians know
Right.
it's going to be a hot button topic, and if there's people on that absolutely do not want it, super conservative folks that do not want it, and they don't. So there's no incentive for them to jump in the fray. It's like the nail that's sticking up.
Right.
What happens?
Plus
It
it's, you
gets
know,
hammered down, right?
How do you deal with that? What are the parameters? If you can't, you need to find a way to measure or determine and decide what are the parameters going to be.
Well, if there was money involved for
Yes,
them,
you're
some
being-
lobbyist thing,
Yeah,
they would
yeah.
jump in, right? Or like they could, if they could, what do you say? Strong arm some pharmaceutical companies
Mm-hmm.
out of billions of dollars, lobbying ways. Then there's all kinds of legislation there, right?
Yeah,
But there's not going to be any legislation on that, because there's
yeah.
no win yet. When there's a financial thing to
Tie it to. Yeah.
you'll see how quickly the legislation gets enacted.
We host a couple of large family gatherings a year annually, and I'm trying to picture one of. They're all family members,
Right.
so
What if they?
yeah.
What if they
Because the
live-
day's coming.
Yeah.
The day is coming.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah.
And I'm
That's
trying to
even a different-
picture what
yeah.
would my reaction.
What would your reaction be?
Be.
And what would your other family members'
Right,
reaction be?
right.
Or like, if,
Yeah.
No, I can see your point where it's a game day. People are bringing a barbecue or hiring Chef Ralph, and there's stuff to come in.
Yeah.
And people are bringing their, bottle of wine, or
Yeah.
they're bringing their 6-pack and everything else, and they're carrying in. And somebody walks in with a whole thing of
What kind of
grapes
hostess
going
gift
through.
is
What does
that?
that look like for your house?
Here's your baking pen. I'll
Somebody
fill
will
up
turn
ready to go.
around and say,
well, if somebody was.
"What is Chris
participating
doing?"
in it.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Well, again, that's I think another topic for discussion. But I'm just saying, all things being equal, that the host has said it was okay, or may smoke themselves, or doesn't see offense in that. Again, just I found.
I think it's
the
funny
whole
that I see
alcohol
some.
versus
It's
weed.
interesting.
I think it's
Yeah.
funny that I see some people in their early 60s and stuff like that are openly talking about smoking pot,
Yeah.
whereas 3 years ago,
Yeah.
That's true.
I never would have known these people
Yeah.
smoked pot, or
Yeah.
and now they just
Well,
freely
think
talk
about when
about
we
it.
grew up.
Right, because
Yeah.
they've had to be
Think
had to
about-
be in the
Yeah.
closet for so long.
Yeah.
It's
I
almost
mean,
like
there's
the
some pretty conservative people that I know.
And
They're
also,
like,
people are just loving that you can use it medicinally. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Instead of
Yeah.
having to,
Yeah.
get a prescription
Yeah.
drug, you can.
I see it's very similar to the LGBTQ movement a few years ago. I mean,
Right.
there are people who are coming out more comfortably now, and it's more accepted.
It's more
And that
accepted.
took
Different-
time.
Yeah.
I think,
yes, it takes time.
We
Now we have our first openly LBGQ senator, right?
who's that?
Isn't the senator from California?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So here's an interesting topic to me that Kate brought to the table this morning. Herring, a big staple, probably the highest volume fish that gets landed in this port by many times over is herring.
Okay.
They use farts to communicate with one another. Did you know this?
I did well, not until I saw your headline. I didn't read.
Oh,
did
that's
have a
so
chance to
interesting.
read the article, or it looks like
That
it's
is
a
super
video.
interesting.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
So here's the
Is
fact.
it the sound? Is it the?
Well, I'm going to read. I'm going to
Okay.
read from the
All right.
article that
Probably
was.
the smell.
This is on the Huffington Post. Apparently, some types of herring do pass gas to speak to each other without alerting other fish. So this is a way to speak to the other fish
Other
if
herrings.
there's predator
Oh,
and stuff.
wow.
A 2003 study revealed the findings, but we're just herring about it now.
Oh.
Oh, that's terrible.
Terrible pun. The men named the phenomenon fast repetitive tick, or RFT. The noise sounds like someone blowing a high-pitched raspberry. Robert Batty, senior research scientist at the Scottish Association for Marine Science in Oban, told National Geographic. However, the gas is not caused by the digestive process. Instead, the fish swallow air from the surface and emit it through a small opening near their anuses. Thus, the farts aren't technically flatulence by its formal
Right.
definition.
So they have a hole that's next to the anus, and they emit noise from that hole.
So when
It's a
it's not really a
communication
fart.
device.
when the fish pass gas, the bubbles that emanate make a high-frequency sound only audible to the herring. The fish use the noise to form protective shoals at night to help them stay safe from predators.
I mean, that's what I
So
do.
interesting.
That's what I do when I'm in bed with my
Yeah,
wife.
with the
I
blanket
fart to
and the-
keep her away from me.
Protective shoal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
It's a
create a
protective
protective show.
Wow. Wow.
So there's that.
Well, I guess that new phrase, I'll smell you later, really.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Well, I think it's pretty popular in the amongst Italians where after a good meal you burp. That's a form of communication. Like, that was freaking
That was
I wonder if
outstanding.
what-
visions of blazing
That was a
saddles,
great
the
meal.
farting scene. You know, they're all.
I'm wondering what happened to make them study that in the first
Yeah.
place. Like
Yeah.
what?
We should get this
Somebody
guy
here-
on.
Well, here's the thing. The headline came from the Huffington Post. I feel like the Huffington Post is all about just,
Well,
Trade,
it
you
attracts
it's
attention.
all clickbait thing.
Yeah, bright lights and sparkly
National
gems.
Enquirer from the news.
But
We have so you posted about Adventure Man,
I did, yeah.
who is basically running all the way from way up north Washington State
Yes. Down
down
the
the
coast,
coast of California,
Across the
across
southern
to
border.
Texas, and then up the East
and
Coast.
then up the East Coast.
Is he in Georgia now or something?
He's in South Carolina.
South Carolina. Excuse,
So I want to read the.
excuse me, I'm so sorry.
Kim is dying. We're gonna have to call 911 in a second for
I
Kim.
almost fainted coming in. I was like,
Really?
just
Well,
cold as
we
not
all
a thing.
almost
What
faint.
a trooper! What
We
a trooper!
we all
Right?
almost faint coming in here.
Yeah.
Her eyes are running. Her nose is running.
She's crying.
She can't breathe.
She's crying.
I can't breathe.
And yet
that's
she's
the problem.
here.
It's the worst.
Contributing
I know it's the
and-
worst. Did you go get the Adele's gumbo?
No, I didn't.
You failed me. Okay. So anyway,
What are you selling? Your Mexican drugs?
this guy, no, Adele's gumbo.
Adele's gumbo.
Oh, Adele's gumbo.
The gumbo at Passports. So, Adventure Man. I'm going to read what he had to say. He goes, I have just hit my 13th state, Georgia, as I make my way up the Northeast into the Atlantic Ocean. 9 months since first putting my hand in the Pacific in Washington State, and all that running has given me time to think. Instead of finishing my trek at West Quoddy Head Lighthouse, which is way, way up in Maine, I'm now going to be finishing in Gloucester, Massachusetts. I know what you're thinking. Why? And he lists his answers why he's going to finish in Gloucester. Because more money has been donated as a result of me live streaming than any other way of sharing the journey, and after all, that's what this is all about. I want to live stream the finish, and well, I've recently found out there will likely be no signal in that area of Maine. That's a huge downside for me, and the difference we could make. You and the support you show by watching, sharing, and donating is everything. As the new finishing spot is just east of Boston and not in the back end of nowhere like the lighthouse, it's easier for my family, friends, and supporters to fly in and run with me for the last few days or so. Did anyone notice anything about the name of the town that I'm finishing in? That's right, it's the same name as my hometown, Gloucester, and there's a reason that's important that I'll get to in a second. It's 35 miles away from Boston Children's Hospital, one of the biggest kids hospitals in the world. It will be the final hospital that I visit in the U.S., and I'd love the inspiration from that visit to be one of the last things I do on the run. So that's
very exciting.
That's it.
I did reach out to him, to his group or him, asked to stay in touch and say we'd love to be a part of your event here, and perhaps we'll be covering it, and we'd like to hear from you if you have a chance. So we'll hope to hear from him. I'm picturing I don't know where he'll go. If he wanted to go out to a lighthouse, I was trying to picture where did I think he would end this here in the city. I mean, where would it be? And at first I thought man at the wheel, but then if he wants lighthouse, maybe he'll run out.
I don't think he necessarily wanted lighthouse.
Oh, okay, just that it was
yeah.
symbolic. Well, then I don't know.
It would be
I don't know what he's thinking, but
if he wants to discuss it, that is there's limited parking out there.
Mm-hmm.
So
right.
at the lighthouse.
Well,
right, and it wouldn't be
at
safe.
the lighthouse
and
for
it,
sure.
and
Yeah,
it
we don't
wouldn't
want
be safe for
the
everybody
butterflies.
to be.
Yeah, we don't want to disturb the butterfly
they're-
habitat.
They're not there anyway.
Or
But
the
they're,
piping plover.
but they're not there that
telling
year. But also there is limited parking lot. It's
There
very
is.
it's restricted by Mass Audubon.
The
You have
people
to
that
pay to
let
park
Kim
there.
go and use their property down on Eastern Point would be upset if she encouraged people to go
Drive
down
there.
No.
down
No,
there.
I'm
And
thinking
Mass
about
Audubon people.
I'm thinking about the people that are coming. Cause
Yeah, and if it's a run, you want.
There are much better places.
you
I
want
agree
something
100%.
where- yeah.
The
The man at the stand.
I think the
might
man
be-
at the wheel would be a great
Yeah,
place
the man
because
at the
they can.
wheel.
Also, last year at this time, that was totally washed out. There was no parking lot. There was no
That's
place
true.
to park down there.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
Yeah.
a total, just looked like a war zone down there. So, in
So
March,
he was afraid that some of his supporters who had pledged money for a certain mile-long journey to Maine would be disappointed or upset because they had pledged this money and his journey was going to be however many miles shorter. And that was a concern that he had, but apparently he was able to come to terms with that, and his supporters seem to agree that that's a good idea. So
I could see, and I'm not speaking for the mayor, but I could see Safatia doing something really great for him.
Oh yeah.
Like
I got news for you. If I was a marching band director up here, I'd bring the band out. I would.
This is just
Parade 'em in.
alley.
this is right in her wheelhouse. I mean,
Right.
she loves
helping
people,
kids,
kids, hospitals, everything. It's right in her wheelhouse. So
I'm going to reach out to her.
reach
too.
out to him, reach out to her.
Yeah.
We want him on the
Traffic control.
podcast.
Yeah.
And it'd be great to be there when he's. We're
It's
like
gonna
I said, we're gonna do updates every week, and,
Yeah.
and Pat said she would do these updates and tell us where he is each week.
And it might be tight because I read somewhere that his 1-year visa ends in early April.
Oh.
So that's another thing. He's under a bit of a time constraint as well.
So he said he's from Gloucester. Is it Gloucester, England?
Yes,
Yeah.
Gloucester,
England.
England.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was going to say.
Yeah, sorry, we didn't
Yeah.
get back to that. Yeah,
that's cool.
yeah.
That's really cool.
Very cool.
And his family can fly from Gloucester, England to Boston a lot easier than getting to Maine. That was
Right.
another one of his
Right.
Some
reasons. He
podunk city in
wants his
Maine
family here.
where they have inferior lobster trap trees.
My question
Well,
is,
the
why
coverage
didn't
would
he
be
pick
better.
Gloucester initially?
Well, I don't
He
know. Well, I
probably
think-
wanted to take it corner to
Geographically.
corner
Yeah,
as
no,
much
that's
as
true.
possible.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. My bad. Strike that from the record.
Cape Ann Fresh Foods is closing for the winter. People probably don't know what Cape Ann Fresh Foods is. It's the place where Intershell had their little retail market across
Yes.
from Mom's Kitchen and Cape Ann Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah.
Skip Montello is doing a program on photography at the Sawyer Free Library Saturday, January 19th from 2 to 4. Skip is a big-time FOB.
Yes.
Kim wanted to talk about Mr. Swan stuck in the ice.
Yeah. So
What? Okay, tell me what you reported, and then tell me, because there seemed to be some misrepresentation of what happened.
So I was told something, but who actually? So Mr. Swan was stuck in the ice over by Henry's Pond, and then what happened was, it was his actual caretakers, Joel and Skip Monroe, who were there, and they were the ones who called the fire department because Skip knows somebody on the fire department. So that wasn't relayed to me, and what several people were concerned about was a couple of years ago when Mr. Swan hurt his foot, somebody called Mass Wildlife, and they put a big sign up and said, don't feed Mr. Swan for a few days. So this was somebody who didn't know anything about Mr. Swan, or that this plan that they had dreamed up wasn't going to work. So that's what several of us were concerned about, is the local authorities, or the authorities beyond the state authorities, coming and trying to rescue Mr. Swan, which is nearly impossible. He won't let people capture him. It causes him 10 times more stress, and that isn't the way to handle any issue relating to Mr. Swan. His caretakers need to be notified. But this actually was Skip and Joel Monroe, who are super caretakers of Mr. Swan. So I've been in contact with Joel, and everything.
Did he forgive you?
Yeah, she's a she.
Oh,
Yeah,
Joel?
Joel. Yeah, and her husband is Skip. And then there's another Skip. So those are Rockport caretakers. And then there's another Skip on Niles Pond who also takes care of Mr. Swan. So
the inner circle.
Right, so Skip at Niles Pond is the one who can correctly identify how old he is. Because Skip moved to Niles Pond in 1992. At that time, Mr. Swan was already there nesting, and had a family of cygnets. So, and that was with Mr. Swan's first wife. So we know from Skip arriving in 1992, that at the bare minimum, Mr. Swan was 2 years old, probably more like 3 or 4, at the bare minimum, because they need to be 3 or 4 years old to
Before
breathe.
they can
breathe. So that's how we know Mr. Swan is at the bare minimum 29 years old.
Jesus.
Which is really
Remarkable.
phenomenal. It's remarkable.
Because hasn't there been people that say that the average life expectancy of a swan is much less?
It's 8 to 9 years in the wild. That's like Mr. Swan is considered in the wild.
How is he considered in the wild if people feed him? He goes from place to place where he's getting hand fed.
Well, people feed. I mean, he's just surviving on his wits. I mean, he made all these people feed him. You know what I mean? Like
If people weren't feeding him, would he last this long?
Yes, he very well could, because of how he has altered his life. Like he's only at freshwater ponds in the summertime, but then he moves to saltwater where he has access to food. He eats seaweed, and so it's unlikely, but he could actually. But the thing is, in the wild, they live on average 8 to 9 years. The queen swans, who are well taken care of, even they don't usually live till 30 years old. You know what I mean? Like, they can live. I think the oldest one was 40 years old. But, he's really just living. They're taken care of. The queen swans in England are, it's a crime to do anything to harm them. And they're beautifully taken care of.
Yeah.
They're more like pets.
Right. Well, that's what I was saying. Like, if
Mr.
you say if it's living in the wild, but like it gets rescued by humans all the time and it gets fed by humans.
Well, he's only been he's never been caught. You're talking about the young swan that was rescued and stayed at Lynn's house. Mr. Swan has never been caught. Never.
Okay.
He's super smart, super wily. He knows how to escape.
Wily.
But he has, we think he was attacked by a snapping turtle. He's crash landed on a roof. He's had a lot of
full life.
He's had a very full life.
He's like the
mate.
Who's the guy? Who's the writer? The crazy writer that did the
Up in Maine?
No, the writer that did the
Alfred Hitchcock?
No, with the fish, the big
Hemingway.
tuna.
Hemingway.
He's like the Ernest Hemingway of swans.
Yeah.
The man,
Well,
the man in the sea? Or what was
Yeah,
it?
The old man in the sea.
Old man in the sea.
Didn't we have to read that in high school?
Yeah, you probably
I
did.
think so.
I'm doing
I think
a lot
I
of
missed that
piping
class.
plover research right now, and believe it or not, there is a piping plover that is 15 years old.
Whoa.
That has been coming to the same exact beach for 15 years.
It's
So
remarkable.
isn't that amazing? I'll tell you more about
And
it.
how do you know that? Do they tag him?
He's tagged.
Ah.
So he was tagged where he was born, and then at the site where he was born, and then he's recorded every year at the exact same nesting site with a nest just a mere feet away every year. And now he lost a foot,
Oh.
and so
Still
he has
hopping
this.
around?
He has this little footprint that's like a piping plover footprint and then a peg. A piping plover footprint.
Oh wow,
and then a
yeah,
peg.
that's cool.
Oh, he just lost his foot, not his
foot,
leg.
not his leg.
Oh
He's
my
like a little
God, that's
peg
great.
leg. He's a peg leg.
He's a peg leg. That is cool. I want to meet this guy.
Me too.
Staying on the bird theme for one sec. I challenged Joe this morning, and he knew the answer to this.
Kim will know this. And I only know
This
this
is the
because
test.
I know this
Oh,
because
really?
of Kim. Yeah.
All right.
What's a gaggle of?
A flock.
What's a bunch of crows together? What are they called?
A gaggle, a murder.
Murder,
of crows,
yes.
A murder.
That was
of
his.
crows.
That was.
But you know what? That is only something that. So, if you actually use that with ornithologists, they'll just look at you like you're funny because it's only used in like. Edgar Allan Poe used the term.
On the
It's
Modern,
not-
on Modern Family, that's where
Well,
I learned
everything
it.
has to start. Everything has to start somewhere.
It has to start.
And who do
somewhere.
you go to? A hornologist?
Orthodontist.
Ornithologist.
Ornithologist.
Oh, I thought a
Cut my-
hornologist.
Chris does not need any help with the horneology.
Yeah.
An ornithologist
24/7
is somebody who
horneologist.
studies birds. That's what an ornithologist does.
A what? Chinese? Oh,
Somebody
study
who
of birds.
Study birds is an ornithologist.
Ornithologist.
Interesting.
Not horno.
Sticking on the theme of pets, moving away from birds.
Is
I
your
also
dog?
learned.
Did your dog still die yet? Or no.
No, this is the big test. It is the last like 3 or 4 days of her taking her medication. So this will be the big test once
Okay.
she's sort of off it, whether that has helped the disc problem that she was having. So
I hope it doesn't die. I don't want it to die.
no. Well, if it doesn't die, Joe, I'm bringing her over your house and I'm going to have her eat you alive. How's that?
Well,
What kind of dog is she?
She's a mutt.
A mutt,
I
yeah.
saved her from a rescue.
What's he place?
you-
Yeah.
Northeast
Savage.
Savage.
rescue.
Is
Savage.
she cute and little? Is that why he's saying she's savage?
No,
All
about
little.
45 pounds.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but nice as can be.
She's
She
the.
barks
Listen, if
with
you could
strangers,
picture,
but doesn't bite.
if you could picture him as a dog, that would be what this dog looks like.
Yeah, it's the funniest
I'm
thing
telling
because
you right
that,
now.
like, I'm sure you've seen those things like on Facebook. or
Show
whatever.
her a picture of your dog and
People-
tell me the
people
dog doesn't
so
look
much
like him.
their dog.
Show her the
I'll
picture.
show a picture after.
Scruffy,
A scruff,
salt and pepper hair.
tight-haired dog, not scruffy. Joe, I'm telling you, I'm bringing her up here.
This is
She's
where
gonna
the
bite you.
descriptions are going to vary greatly between.
Every time I go, I
Joey's
look in the window. He's got the raw meat, and he's dangling the raw meat. He's got her on the chain, and the dog runs to the meat, and he pulls the meat away, and the dog gets right by the neck to try to until the dog can't take it anymore, and then he feeds the dog the meat.
Oh my gosh.
That's a sad image.
He's a breeder. He's a breeder for Michael Vick.
Yeah, me and Michael Vick. So Switzerland, are they the ones who zap lobsters, or
Yeah.
was that Sweden?
Sweden.
Sweden.
Oh.
that's
Was it
the
Switzerland?
lobsters. No.
All right, I don't know, but another European country I read. Speaking of animals, it's against the law to own only one guinea pig because they're social animals. They,
This is a law.
I swear to God, yeah. Are you serious with some of these countries? You have to own more than one guinea pig if you live in Switzerland.
I'd be interested to hear what their
Gee,
policies were on homelessness and,
I don't think they have that in Switzerland.
you know, if they're concerned about animals and their social life,
Yeah,
You
that
know,
they need a
people who
mate,
need-
a
yeah.
mate. They need,
because it's
Someone to
cruel.
interact with.
Otherwise, it's cruel.
yeah.
See,
Huh.
I call that news that you're doing. You know, people listen to NPR.
That's the
for it.
HuffPost
I call
of
it the
GMT.
CPR.
The
when you do
CPR
it.
course, yes.
The CPR news.
Yeah, but that brings up a good point because I grew up with some guys and women who are the only child in the family, and some I think would argue that that's unfair to only have one child, that you must multiply and have more than one. So there's
Do you have any
siblings.
siblings?
I do. I
You
have 2 others.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I wasn't one of them. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah,
agreeing or disagreeing with the one
Right.
child theory,
right.
but I think China may have gotten it wrong.
Right.
With
Well,
the-
I think they're
they've
seeing that
loosened that
now
up,
because
right?
they don't have enough brides for the men
Yeah.
Because they shipped them all over here.
because or
No, it's
did
true.
other,
Yeah.
or did other things
But is it
Adopted.
disproportionate amount of men to women in
Yes.
China?
because of the one child
Because
policy.
in China,
Would they allow you to have an abortion if you had a girl
Yes.
but not a boy?
And the abortions were forced if you had more than one child. If you had more than one
Well,
child.
you know what they say. One
What
son.
do they say?
One father can support 10 sons, but 10 sons can't support one father. Did they ever say? Did you ever hear that?
I
saying?
never heard that.
I never
before.
heard that one.
But it is a very ancient Chinese custom to prefer men over
Mm-hmm.
girls, and that's why they either aborted them or put them up for adoption.
Evil men. There you
so-
go.
No, that was
Phyllis A. fundraiser. The Phyllis A. is having a fundraiser.
They're trying to raise $200,000 this year because it's a perpetual problem, and Doug Parsons at least wants to get it into the water this year. So they're having a big push. One of the first things that they're doing is that they're having they're collecting stories about the Michigan bears, which were the gill netter fishermen that
The
originally
Dahmer family and the Arnold family.
came. Right. So they're having an event.
They've been feverishly keeping that legacy alive.
Yeah.
The Hubbards, the Wansons, I think, they all came down from
Michigan.
Michigan.
They
down-
crossed through the Great
Lakes.
Lakes
Yeah.
and
Crossed
the
them.
Erie Canal, and
and they landed in Gloucester, and they were like the first gill netters amongst a huge dragger fleet.
yeah.
They were like, there was a handful of gill netters, and they brought that way of life here. So they have a special place in
Gloucester
pantheons.
history. They
And
do.
they-
If you counted the amount of fish that are landed by gill netters in this city over the years compared to draggers,
Draggers.
it's
Disproportionately. Yes.
there's not as many, but they, you know what, they should be proud of their heritage because they're all hardworking, great guys. Those Michigan Bears are hardworking, very family oriented, great guys, great guys. Jeff Denoncourt is giving a talk at Cape Ann Museum on the ecology of Cranes Beach.
Yes, that's this Saturday at 3:00, and you have to go online to the Cape Ann Museum and register to to get your tickets. But I'm excited because I've worked with Jeff before. He's a great guy, just bursting with information. He's the trustees. He works for the trustees, and he not only covers Cranes Beach, but many of the trustees' properties, and also he's just knows a lot about piping plovers and leaf terns and nesting shorebirds. He was at the Cape Ann Coastal Waterbird Management meeting this summer, and it should be a really interesting talk. Should be really interesting.
All right, Lobster Bay. I think we're going to finish up right here. The Lobster Buoy auction to benefit Cape Ann Art Haven is January 25th.
At 5:00.
For all the
Right up.
people that love that lobster trap tree, and I know every year it gets bigger and bigger, and there are people that come to our city to see that and spend money in our shops and everything.
Get their photo taken in front
Get
of
their
them.
photo taken in front of it. Kim did a piece about that, ongoing pieces about that. The 25th, January 25th, circle that on your calendar. They always have a great time, and they make it a family fun event.
Oh, it's a wonderful
Yeah.
event. We should thank Cruzport because they provide the venue, all the local restaurants that provide food for everybody. I mean, it's just a wonderful night.
It really is.
Yeah.
It really is. All right, guys, that is GloucesterCast 317. It's in the books.
Right.
We had a one podcast version, David McKechnie today,
Yeah.
and it was filled with some great news, I think.
Yeah, lots of valuable stuff today.
And Adam Curcuru.
Curcuru and what they're doing for the Coast Guard. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.